Yeah, that he's not on.
Ah,
Okay, we're live now.
great, cool. Okay, well, welcome. Thanks for joining us on this pretty miserable Thursday afternoon. Yeah, we're here today to talk to you a little about this exciting tool, which is the GSEFI, or Google Suite Enterprise for Education, and yeah, to give you the kind of rundown on what it is and how it might help schools going forwards. We've got a really exciting lineup of people today. So in no particular order, we've got our two kind of resident Googlers. So we've got Simon and Lance. So a big thank you for joining us today. And also we have Adam, or AJ, from Christ School in Sixth Form in Richmond. And yeah, so he's a school who's actually using the tool already. And yeah, my name is Max. I'm from Wizkids, and we also have Gemma, who's our wonderful Google trainer here at Wizkids as well. So yeah, the plan really is to just have Google. They're going to kind of tell us about the product because they're the ones who know it best. And then we're going to hand over to Gemma, AJ, and I to talk about some of the teaching and learning, or the impact on teaching and learning that GSEFI has, as well as some of the tech bits and pieces that it can help you guys with. Yeah, we're just really keen to hear your comments, and so please feel free to post questions in the chat. And I think apart from that, I think we'll just get on with it. So maybe I'll hand over straight to Simon and Lance, who'll get cracking with the introduction and basics of GSEFI.
Brilliant, thanks, Max. Yeah, really nice to be here, everyone. My name's Simon. I'm the lead for G Suite Enterprise for Education across EMEA. Lance will introduce himself later on when I hand over to Lance. If you don't mind, Lance, it's better coming from you. We're really pleased to be here today to talk about G Suite Enterprise for Education. We don't have a lot of time, so we're just going to get straight into it. And I just really want to introduce G Suite Enterprise for Education for those of you who haven't heard of it yet, and break it down a little bit for you. So in short, it's an upgrade. It's an upgrade, on your current G Suite environment. You could break it down into two major categories. I always like to think about it as two sides of a coin. So first of all, you have the security and admin controls, and you can see on the slide here all the tools and functionality underneath that side of things. And then the other side of the coin really is the teaching and learning tools. And you'd be familiar, obviously, with Google Meet. We're talking about here when we mention advanced video meeting capabilities and empowering authentic thinking through originality reports, which is our positive approach to plagiarism, which we'll get into later on. But before we carry on and I hand over to Lance and we go through the whole feature set listed here, I just want to stop and think a little bit about why the product's important right now. Like, who really cares about another show and tell? So let's consider the context. The recent COVID-19 pandemic mandated school closures across the world. We all know this. Over 188 countries shutting down all schools. That's an impact of over 1.5 billion students. We felt this here as well in the UK, of course. And really, it leaves education leaders like yourselves with big decisions to make, considering we find ourselves now in a hybrid learning environment that's not going anywhere. And a lot of us, or most of us, are trying to work out how we're navigating and where we're taking our digital transformation journey, sorting through issues like how we're going to handle our distance learning, how are we going to deal with our security concerns now that we're more than ever using technology. How do we have better control over data and ensure our users are protected? So with that in mind, what really is G Suite Enterprise for Education? I'll tell you what it isn't. It's not a single solution. It's not just one of your digital transformation concerns. That's not what we do here at Google. It's really not what we do best, to be honest. Really, what G Suite Enterprise for Education is a raft of solutions. It makes sense for the time we find ourselves in. It's going to help you get through your digital transformation journey when you consider not just what's impacting you right now, but what's going to impact you in 6 to 12 to 18 to 24 months as well. So I kind of want you to think about that in the back of your mind as we go through what actually is included in G Suite Enterprise for Education. With that in mind, I'll hand over to Lance to take us through. Thanks, Lance.
Thank you, Simon. That was a great introduction. Thank you very much. My name is Lance Escobar. I'm the adoption specialist here at Google, looking after G Suite Enterprise for Education. today. Thank you very much for inviting me to present, and I'm going to give you a whistle-stop tour of what's in Giuseppe, or G Suite Enterprise for Education. I think this slide, is a good starting point, which is a bird's eye view. And as Simon correctly pointed out, it is an upgrade for G Suite for Education. So everything you see on the left of the screen is what you get in G Suite for Education, and it's really teaching and learning focused. There is an enterprise upgrade, which is Giuseppe, and that's what we're talking about today, and that's everything you see on the right. And so there's a great increase in security and administration and deployment features, but there's also a great increase in the teaching and learning tools. And we're going to talk about both aspects of this in this quick presentation here. But I think it's important to note that it's both parts that are upgraded, and it is an upgrade path. So remember, those other tools that we want to use and leverage on inside our domains, such as Calendar, Gmail, Drive, Docs, Sheets, Forms, Google Classroom, Google Assignments, etc., are all still there and a part of this entire solution that we're investing in. So the first place to really sort of park on and talk about would be the the security aspect. And the first part I want to talk about is the security health page. Security health page is a proactive look at your configuration and your policies within your domain. So it looks at all the different configuration and policies that you have, and then sees how that compares to Google's recommendations. And so that may be that you've intentionally configured it that way, which is absolutely fine, but sometimes you may have not configured something, and this would be a great place to point that out, just to let you know that something hasn't been configured. And if you're not sure what we're talking about, you just hover your mouse over it, and it's got a great link inside there that goes to a support article that gives you all the details you need to know about what this feature is, how to configure it, etc. So you can use that as a proactive overview. So it's just a quick health check. Am I doing okay? Just check the pulse. Yes, I think I'm doing all right. Right, we can move on. Security Center dashboard is looking at real-time events throughout your domain. And so this is really helping you out understanding different Gmail-related reports. So it's looking at your spam filter, it's looking at your phishing reports, and trying to understand what's happening right now. It's also looking at Drive-related reports as well. So we can see when things have been shared externally. So you can see number of files being generated or shared within the domain. And then it's also helping you out with login attempts as well. So it's showing you failed login attempts, failed device login attempts, etc. within your domain. So if you saw a large spike of maybe device login attempts, or maybe you saw a large spike in your spam filter, you can react to that in an instant, and you can react to that using the investigation tool. The investigation tool allows you to dive deep and drill down hard into any incident that's happening within your domain, and it allows you to really get an understanding of what's happening. So this is your reactive tool when something really does go wrong within the domain. It's nice and simple to use. It populates itself straight from the dashboard. So if you spot something in the dashboard, you can just hit open investigation. It's all pre-populated for you and gives you the information you need. You could delete the 5,000 emails that have hit your spam folder within a couple of clicks. Select all, delete, and that's removed from your domain then. We also improve deployment and advanced mobile device management. So we have advanced mobile device management, or MDM, which allows you to detect jailbroken and compromised devices within your domain, curate and manage a list of mobile applications, block unknown sources, provision Wi-Fi networks and configuration policies. It also allows you to keep inventory of devices on the domain, control which apps are installed, and apply policy settings. And so this gives you great control of those devices that are either owned by the school, or devices that are actually coming in as third-party owned devices, maybe student-owned or teacher-owned devices as they come into the domain. And it allows you to gain some control over those devices. And should they be compromised, it then allows you to very simply wipe the device, or just wipe the specific data from that device. And this isn't limited to just third-party mobile devices. We also have this for Chromebooks through the CEU licensing, but we also have extended this to the Windows devices that may be coming into your domain as well. So you can log into a Windows 10 device using your Google credentials. Gives you seamless single sign-on experience, so any web-based Google app services are automatically logged in for you, as well as the desktop applications such as Meet and Drive File Stream. It synchronizes your Google password with your Active Directory and local Windows passwords, and it also auto-enrolls that device within your device management as well. So I'm just going to hand back over to Simon real quick, just to cover off some of our data and Gmail log information. So he's going to talk you through just what you can build through our dashboards. Thanks, Simon.
Thanks, Lance. Yeah, so we've taken a look at a brief look at security and some admin controls there. Now we'll touch on the data analytics. So why is this important? Right now, we're hearing from a lot of our customers coming to us saying, we need better analytics. We need to understand better what's happening in our domain. We need to understand the student engagement, especially now more than ever. So through G Suite Enterprise for Education, for the licensed users, you'll have access to detailed reports, Gmail logs, and usage data. And really, there's this great integration with BigQuery here. You can send all that data on a daily basis, even send it up into BigQuery, pull it back down into a useful tool, maybe like Google Data Studio or another third-party analytics tool, and get some great insights on the data that's coming through here. And probably the next slide really illustrates quite well what we're talking about there, Lance, if you don't mind. Thank you very much. So as you can see here, creating beautiful dashboards with Data Studio. We already have some pre-built templates for schools and learning institutions in general. And again, the reason is to make this data, digestible and to ensure that it helps you make better decisions and you can understand where the engagement is actually occurring within your domain. Moving right along, I'll just briefly mention data regions here. Data regions is an option, really. First of all, I'll call out that this option isn't required. You don't require data regions to be GDPR compliant. You're GDPR compliant under the terms of services within G Suite already. Data regions is an option. If you want to have your licensed users data retained in Europe, for example, you can do that. There are three settings. The setting that is on by default is having all of the data chunked and encrypted across all of our data locations globally. If you wish to store it in Europe, you can do so. You could even opt to store it in the US, but I'm figuring that most people on the call would want to keep it in Europe, if anywhere. It's an option and a nice to have. The use case here would be more higher education with some research projects that are sensitive and they'd like to keep in Europe. Yeah, thanks very much, Lance. I'll move on to the next slide, which is really cloud search. So this is an interesting one because it does fall under the category of data and analytics, really, but actually it's kind of a teaching and learning tool a little as well because staff and your students will gain access to this if you so desire. So what is cloud search in a nutshell? It's like having your own private personal Google search for your school domain, which is so useful. You might be thinking, well, why do I need that? It's pretty easy to get across things in Docs and Drive and Gmail, Calendar, you name it. That's true when you're in the native tool. But the problem this solves for is you may have a lot of information. We find a lot of our customers have a lot of information that's built out in sites and there's information in, across all the apps. The nice thing about cloud search is you can type intuitively across all of these tools to find your information as quickly as possible. That's really what it solves for. How do I get to my information as quickly and easily as possible? From a proactive point of view, there's additional functionality within this. I'll give you an example. With assist cards, you don't even have to go looking for the information in the first place. Using Google's machine learning, it'll start prompting you, to utilize information you go to regularly. So, for example, maybe you've got a Monday morning meeting that takes place at 9 a.m. every week. I know I do. I'm pretty sure you probably all do as well. And maybe you refer to a set of notes, a doc or something like that. Or you'd be prompted to just open up that doc instead of going looking for it in the first place. So pretty useful way of utilizing technology as well, I would say. And finally, moving forward to this teaching and learning tool, originality reports. If you haven't heard of originality reports, it is our approach to plagiarism. It is our anti-plagiarism software. Now, when we were thinking about our approach to this, we thought, how do we take something that's usually quite punitive and make it positive, make it a positive learning experience? That's what we wanted to do with originality reports. So again, students and staff or teachers, instructors will have access to the report. And that's the critical That's a critical point there. A student will be able to run 3 reports against the power of Google search to detect plagiarism and any miscitations, let's say. Maybe the student just is still learning the process of citation. So they get to run that report and learn from it. And it's a process. And then, after 3 attempts, they can then hand in their work to their teacher, or also have an automatically generated report. Very useful. What do you gain from originated reports within G Suite Enterprise for Education? You gain unlimited access to this tool. So teachers can run as many of these reports as they want across their assignments. Important to mention that as well as running reports against the power of Google search, the world's largest search index, billions of pages and sites, and I think it's 40 million books right now. Very, very soon, we'll be launching the ability for you to build your own school repository. And what that's going to help you do is detect any plagiarism that's happening, any copying that's happening between students. And the final point I'll make on that is we will never allow that the sharing of your own repository within your school across our customer base. It's not our approach. It doesn't sit well with us from a privacy and security perspective. Your data is your own. Your students' data is their own. We want to make sure that's protected at all times. Finally, if you're not using Classroom already, you can still gain access through a tool called Assignments, where you'll access originated reports, and that will sync with virtually all of the LMSs out there: Blackboard, Moodle, Canvas, you name it. Thanks, Lance. And we'll move on to Google Meet. So I'll just I do a brief intro on the next slide to Google Meet here. Many of you know we made a lot of the premium Meet features that have always lived within G Suite Enterprise for Education available to all G Suite users to deal with the COVID-19 crisis. Those features were the ability to record meets, the ability to host meetings up to 250 participants, and the ability to live stream up to 100,000 in domain. Obviously, that was until September 30. That time has passed, but there is the ability to gain this upgrade by upgrading to G Suite Enterprise for Education. There's so much more coming to Meet, though, and I feel like we should quickly talk about that. And this is probably the most fun part of the presentation, I would say. I'll hand over to Lance to take us through what else is coming to Google Meet and what can we expect. Thanks, Lance.
Thanks, Simon. You always give me all the fun bits to present as well, so I appreciate that. So yeah, let's just have a quick talk through just some of the roadmap, and I'll talk through what everybody's going to get, and then I'll then show you specifically what G Suite Enterprise for Education will get as well, as I think it's important just to get a broader understanding of what Meet's really going to provide for us. And those of you that have been using Meet, you've probably already seen some great features coming in. And I've attended so many meets a day, but when I'm meeting with customers and I see you guys using the background replace or blurred background. And that gets me really excited. I'm really excited to see these things being used, and I'd love to see them being used in the classroom and seeing some of these great features coming through. And so I hope these features are well received as we go through them, and I hope we sort of understand the excitement that we have internally, knowing that these great things are being used. And this is all feedback that we've attained from yourselves as customers, and from the partners and from our customers, to really understand how you want to use these tools. And I think we've been super responsive to be able to turn that around very quickly and deliver some of these great features. And so, we're landing on this one at the moment here, which is a larger tiled view. It's a 7x7 grid, which just gives you the ability to get a full view of that class. So up to 49 participants, all seen in one snapshot. So you can just get an idea is everybody listening? Is everybody paying attention to the screen? Are they still there? Are they on the phone or whatever? And so it also, as a presenter or as a communicator, I can see everybody reacting to my conversation, reacting to what I'm saying. And that has a huge value. And so I think this is a big deal, just having better visibility. We've also added some moderation controls that have improved as well. So things like being able to turn chat on and off as the host, being able to turn present on and off, and being able to boot people out of the call and prevent them coming back in, for example. There's also been some great upgrades around that piece as well. Some other great stuff that we've had come through, and I've mentioned this one already, but background replace. Not everybody's in an environment where they're happy to share their background. I'm not going to turn my laptop 90 degrees to the right because you'll see the absolute mess that's in this space around me. This is my junk room and it is full of stuff. And so, I'm strategically placing my laptop, but I could just blur my background. In Meet, I can blur my background, or I could just replace it and I can just be on the beach and whatever else. We're not all blessed being in a studio and we don't all have access to those spaces. And so just being able to level set and say, no, I'm just going to be in the mountains for today and hide that distracting world around me. Also thinking about how our students can communicate back to us. Not everybody wants to be the person that unmuted themselves and go, excuse me. Not everybody wants to ask that question. And so being able to raise your hand, if you're one of 250 participants in a meet, it's a great way to be able to just raise your hand virtually. And so as a presenter, I can see who has raised their hand, and I can see the number of people that have raised their hand, and I can address them individually, either in the meet or after the meet should I want to, but it allows me to get tracking of who actually is alerting me within my meet. We're also improving the way Jamboard integrates with Meet. So at the moment, you can integrate Jamboard with Meet. You can screen share as I'm doing right now with a presentation. You can screen share with a Jamboard, but it is a bit clunky, so you'd have to open a new Jamboard session, find everybody that's in your class, invite them all in, hope you haven't lost anybody or forgotten that that one student, and then everybody can then start integrating with it. Whereas a new update's coming, and I believe it's just being launched as we speak, allows you to create a Jamboard straight within a Meet. Everybody's automatically got visibility of that. They all automatically have collaboration of that tool, and so it's created there in the Meet for you. And then it's also there in your Jamboard session. It's clearly labeled. It's easy to use. And if you're not familiar with Jamboard, it's an interactive whiteboard. It allows you to annotate and draw all over the screen, which could be useful. However, it allows you to create objects. And then with those objects, for instance, here we got some sticky notes. We could then move those objects around the screen and collaborate together as a group to make that happen. And then you can then each take a copy away, or you can keep the master copy and then work from that to then work on it offline as well as within the Meet. I realized that I didn't test this video beforehand, so you're just going to have to take my word for it because I'm not going to test my video live in a call. But essentially, this slide here is really talking about improving the video quality. And so not everybody is in a studio with studio lighting around them. Not everybody has a high performance Chromebook sitting in front of them with a high performance camera. And so sometimes it can just be difficult to communicate because we can't see what's being said. And I think that's very apparent at the moment. I think we're all very aware of body language now, probably more so than we used to be. Just walking down the street now, when I've got my face mask on, I can't just do that little smile or that little, subtle expression when I see somebody on the road that I know. I kind of have to be a bit more grand about my expressions, and I have to be more blatant with my body language. And I think that's also true when we're talking and we're presenting. Like it sometimes can be very difficult to get our understanding across, and body language really aids that. And so these small cameras in the front of our laptops aren't necessarily built for that. And so using Google's machine learning and Google's powerful engines, we can just help enhance that video and just make that brighter and better and clearer so that we can be seen as well as heard on our calls. Classroom has already had this update, but now Meet is integrated tightly into Classroom. So you've got that native integration into Classroom, so you can pull the Meet straight out of it. You can also get the Meet code straight from there. And if you're communicating with the class on maybe a WhatsApp group or something like that, you could just drop the Meet code in there as well. And so it just gives you greater shareability and visibility of that Meet, and it also creates it as if it would just doing a Meet within a calendar. So that's everything everybody will receive, and some of that's already launched, some of that's still coming, but it's an aggressive roadmap and it's being delivered as we speak. Giuseppe, or G Suite Enterprise for Education, though, is getting more features and is getting more premium features. So we'll just talk through what some of these are. There's only a handful of them, but I think they're extremely important. The first one of which is attendance tracking. Being able to see who attended your Meet, how long they attended your Meet for, and when they joined is incredibly valuable. It also probably saves a lot of administrative time or quick screenshotting, just who's in the call, let me just screenshot to find out. It saves you doing all that hassle. As soon as you exit the Meet, you're then emailed an email, a summary of your meet, and within that will be an attachment, which will be a Google Sheet showing you all that information. You could then bank that and put that into a matrix or a dashboard to then maybe track attendance over time and then build that into a graph or anything else. But it allows you to get that data and it sends it to you just in an instant. We're also introducing breakout rooms. So the ability to take this meet from a single narrative. So such as today, this is me communicating with you. And, you know, if Simon wanted to have a side conversation with one of you right now, like he could unmute himself and he could start chatting away and bring up a point or something, but it would override what I'm saying right now. And we'd all be confused and left really unsure of what's going on. And the classroom still has that same reality as well. We still want to be able to break students up into a smaller group so they can work together. And we may have other teachers in the room and maybe we want to send them off with a specific set of students to do some work and then come back to the single narrative that is the whole class. Breakout rooms allows you to do that. So you define the number of rooms that you have within your meet, and then you can then distribute your students around those individual rooms. You as a presenter can then tour around those rooms to then just drop in, see how everybody's doing, then move on to the next one. It also allows you to move people around afterwards. So you might decide, oh, actually, they're probably not quite right to be working together. I can move them to other spaces. And then I can also ultimately, I could just close down those rooms, bring everybody back to the central meet, and then maybe finish off with my summary or whatever it might be, all using this great feature called breakout rooms. We're also empowering students to be able to, again, ask questions, but ask questions in a way that is easier for you as a host to answer them. And I know what it's like, you know, mid-flow, you're having a conversation, someone pings up a question, or you get lots of activity in the chat. You think, what's going on? I just need to double check that. And you're trying to present at the same time or trying to communicate with someone at the same time, and you're struggling to do both tasks. So this helps break things up. This is a separate section that Q&A is populated in, so you can go and visit that separately and independently. You can see all the questions that are being asked. If a student feels that the question that's been asked is relevant to them, they could just upvote it rather than retyping that same question over and over again. So you then start seeing your questions banked together based upon the student's behavior of clicking the upvote. Allows you to see them stack ranked as well. So you can either see them by newest to oldest or oldest to newest or most popular. And then it also allows you, just as a simple Boolean statement, to say yes or no if I answered that. Yes, I've answered that one. Yes, I've answered that one. So you can go through and just tick that off. You can also hide questions. That's not appropriate. Let's just get rid of that one or delete them if you need to. And then at the end of the meet, when you exit the meet, you're then emailed a list of all of those questions and everything that's inside there. And you can see what the activity was. So you can see who asked that question, whether you said you answered it or not, whether you hid it, or whether that person that submitted it deleted it or not. And so you'll be able to see all of that, and it's time-stamped as well, which is super handy. And we can flip that over and then allow you to also ask questions to your students so you can track their activity and their learning, and just to make sure that everyone's on the same page. So I could, do a simple poll right now if I wanted to, and I could say, is this feature available on G Suite Enterprise for Education or G Suite for Education? And then you could then, as a poll, which one you feel like it's available on. And of course, we'd all say G Suite Enterprise for Education, so we'd tick that box. On exit of the meet, I would then see all of the people that answer that question and what all their responses were. I can preload those into my meet. So when I open my meet, I can just dump all my questions into it straight away and then drip feed those out as I go through the meet. And get that information back out at the end. Just a couple more bits. We recognize that many classrooms are bilingual or trilingual. We have the ability to do live captions on the fly, and you've probably seen live captions on maybe something like YouTube. So if you watch any YouTube videos, you can go to auto captioning, and you can also put it into multiple languages. So we have that functionality within the Google sphere as itself. We're introducing that capability in Meet as well. So you'll be able to pull up live captions for those people that are maybe English isn't their first language, or maybe the classroom's first language isn't English and it's French, for instance. I could then convert that over to English using the live captions. Apologies, I should stop introducing videos into my presentations when I haven't tested them first. Just one more interesting thing about quality. This is about noise. This is about noise quality. Again, going down the concept of communicating with people and distractions. We've seen how we're preventing distractions with the background blur, the background replace. We're also looking at the video quality to try and improve that quality so we can be seen better. The final piece I think is really important there is being heard and making sure that our point is understood and heard by everybody else in the room. And it doesn't matter where we're coming from. We could be sitting in a cafe, we could be sitting in the kitchen and we have 3 other people working around us, or it could be, unfortunately, sitting next to a building site and they're, you know, they're digging out a swimming pool next door or something, which actually was an example that somebody gave me the other day because they were genuinely sitting next to someone digging out a swimming pool. Not my world. But you can see that, you know, audio is important. And so we don't all have noise cancelling headphones. We don't all have dual microphones on our laptops, for instance, to be able to do this. So using the internal technology within Google, we're able to break out that interference and that noise and provide much clearer, cleaner audio so that we can be heard and understood better. Just a couple more bits to talk you through here. So the first one here is the live streaming. So Simon mentioned earlier, as part of the premium features, we have the ability to do up to 100K in-domain participants for a live stream within Meet. It's a bit like doing a YouTube live stream, but it's much simpler to do and much easier to do through Meet. Currently, it's only available to in-domain users. We're opening that up to outer-domain users. So if you want to communicate more with friends of the school or the wider community, or even broader still, you have the ability to share to up to 100K participants with a Meet Live. So just to give some dates around these, and I know this is always a challenging thing to do and to do accurately. So I'll give you an idea. When, you know, at Google, when we give you a date, a specific date, that's generally when something's going to land. And if it slips, it might slip by a day. If we give you a month, generally, if it slips by a month. And, you know, there's a few dependencies around it, but we're fairly confident. And if we give you a quarter, that means there's quite a lot of dependencies still hanging around this. And if it slips by a quarter or 2. So, you know, bear that in mind. But this is just an idea of when these things are coming. You'll notice the theme here. They're all coming now. That we're aiming to get all these things out as quickly as we can. We want to make sure they work for you first. So, you know, we have a lot of work to do in the background, but we're trying to launch these things as quickly as possible for you. Cool. What I'd like to do right now is I'd like to hand back over to Simon. And Simon's just going to take us through just the final piece of this presentation. He's going to talk us through what some of the pricing, what some of the licensing looks like. And so we can get an understanding, should you wish to upgrade, this is the path that you need to take. And this is what it's going to cost. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Lance. You do get the fun bits, don't you? Let's talk through the pricing. So if you're interested in the upgrade, you purchase G Suite Enterprise for Education on an annual commitment. You can be invoiced monthly, or you can pay annually, depending on your preference. And that's a conversation you have with your wonderful partner, Wizkids, for example. There is a current promotional deal for full domain licensing. So I'll explain what full domain licensing is. It's the most common approach to purchasing G Suite Enterprise for Education. So this is where you license all your staff, and then on a ratio of 1 to 10, you get all your students for free with free licenses. So the cost, it's usually £3.50, is 50% off, £1.75 per month per staff user. And again, those student licenses are free on that ratio of 1 to 10. It's really important to note that a G Suite Enterprise for Education full domain license is licensed on a per user basis. What we mean by that is the numbers are really quite important. It's not equivalent to a site license you might be familiar with. It's not the same structure. It's just the way G Suite operates. So just bear that in mind. The final piece of the puzzle here is not only do you get 50% off before the 31st of October, you also lock in the ability to renew at years 2 and 3 that 50% discount if you upgrade before 31st of October. That's quite significant if you're considering what it's looking like for you in your school over the next handful of years. There is this window of opportunity, I suppose, where it's quite affordable. So it's something to consider, because as of 1st of November, the price will go back up to £3.50 per month for staff licenses. So that's the pricing there. Again, if you want to have more of a detailed conversation, I would have a chat to Wizkids. Definitely have a conversation with them. A couple of other final thoughts here. Just these major updates. We're familiar We're familiar that the September 30 deadline has come and gone for premium meat features. Yeah, we know that, but there is still this opportunity to maintain, get a hold of some of those upgrade features, and of course, the full value of G Suite Enterprise for Education for 50% discount over 3 years as well. Just one last thing on the 3-year price lock. It doesn't mean that you have to sign up for 3 years. What it means is you have the option to renew at the discounted rate for years 2 and 3. And final thoughts, we just wanted to let you know this. We're committed to investing in education. Just because we have G Suite Enterprise for Education doesn't mean that we won't continue to upgrade and update G Suite for Education. G Suite Enterprise for Education is this wonderful option, but for many of our customers, G Suite for Education does the trick. And if that's the case, fantastic. We'll continue to upgrade it. As you can see with the Google Meet section of the presentation, we're still upgrading features within Google Meet for G Suite for Education for the free SKU as well, at no additional cost. And we think that's really important because we want you to know that we're not leaving any customers behind with this upgrade. This is just if this is important to you as you look forward. And that really concludes our presentation. I'd like to thank you so much for listening. The final thing I would say is when you think about this product, I would think about it, if I were you, I'd think about it from an ROI perspective. That's how all good business decisions are made. What does this product really help you with? Is it relevant for you in the first place? If it is, how is it relevant? Is it addressing your security concerns? Is it addressing your distance learning concerns? Is it addressing your anti-plagiarism software concerns? If some of those things are important to you, then I would weigh up what this product could save you in the long run as well. Thanks again. Really appreciate it. I'm going to hand back to Gemma and Max now. Thank you.
Hello. Wow, that was awesome, guys. Thank you so much. A huge amount to get through. And I don't know about you, Gemma, there was a couple of things that really caught my eye. One of them was schools having their own repositories for plagiarism, so you can see if students have copied each other's work. I thought that was pretty neat.
That's great. I think that's especially anybody in secondary or sixth form, it'd be so useful.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, some great questions as well. But I think this is probably the most important bit now. AJ, Adam, you're up. So
Cool.
we're really pleased you could join us today. So I think I've probably said enough. We're probably keen to hear from you. So maybe we start off with what's your name, where'd you come from, and a quick intro to all the Google stuff you guys are doing at Christ School in Richmond.
Okay, cool. Yep, my name is AJ or Adam Turner, and I'm the network manager at Christ School and Holy Trinity Primary School. Both of our schools are G Suite schools, and we're currently with Wizkids as our Google partner.
Awesome. Yeah, and it's I remember, AJ, we've done quite a lot of work together and been through various things with synchronizations and parental notifications in classroom. But you and some of your colleagues were quite early adopters of G Suite, and I thought it'd just be interesting for the people watching to give maybe a bit of kind of context, right? So, what was it that kind of persuaded you? I guess before we get on to Giuseppe and you being an early adopter of that, what was it about the actual? I was going to say G Suite platform, but that's wrong now. Google Workspace platform that kind of that got you started.
So the Christ journey is basically, or the Christ School journey, sorry, is basically about 3-4 years ago, I believe. We obviously was originally Office 365, and obviously everyone knows Office 365. But then we kind of moved away from Office 365 because, as if any of you watching our network managers, you probably are aware that back in those days, you needed like an Active Directory Federation server and also a web application server on site, which in turn causes problems as it is, like regarding like just load times on the network. But it was basically originally brought to us by an English teacher, strangely enough, that basically went on a course with our head of computer science, then came back and was like, oh, G Suite is really good. I'd highly recommend the school go down this route instead of Office 365, which basically no one used at the school. So we then went down that route, and basically mainly just for the fact that it's really good for students and staff, ease of use basically. And yeah, we migrated our file server first. That took like the whole of the summer holidays. And then we also migrated our mail platform basically from LGFL, because we're a London Grid for Learning school, to basically Gmail, because basically at the time LGFL, they had a really outdated version of Web Outlook. No shots fired there, but I'm just saying they had a really old version, and we're like, okay, Google also covers that. Yeah, but yeah, no, that's basically it really. And for Holy Trinity, we moved everything all at once during the summer holidays last year.
We did your classroom provisioning and stuff. Yeah, awesome. And before we got into to Gemma's questions about teaching and learning and Giuseppe, I was just kind of interested, I've been to the school and done a few sessions with your staff, but what is it kind of, the use of Google at your school, what does it look like? Because some schools who use G Suite only use the classroom kind of element of it, but you guys use it a little bit more, they use it more than just for classroom, right?
Yeah, no, completely. So when it comes to students, basically, we obviously use Gmail so they can contact their staff members. Obviously, all basically external emails are basically blocked, which again, Google, I don't want to go into the technical aspects because I'm sure you're not here for that. Basically, within Google Admin, you can easily disable external emails for students and specific OUs. Again, I won't go into much detail, but when it comes to staff, Google Classroom, Google Meet for live lessons, and yeah, we use Google Sign Builder as well because we've got digital signage around the school with our Chrome bits, which is quite a cool way of using it. But yeah, that's basically what we use it for within Christ.
Yeah, and you're going down, like, increasingly getting with Chromebooks and stuff, right? With students using those, and how do you find that sort of stuff?
We're obviously going down more of a Chromebook route than instead of Windows laptops because they're relatively inexpensive without sounding like a Google shill, basically. But no, Chromebooks are great. And yeah, to be honest, the Wizkids, again, I'm not promoting anything at all, but the Wizkids tracker the Wizkids tracker application is amazing. It's a godsend. And if you were going to say to me that you predicted a pandemic in the future and that's why you released this last year, yeah, I would have believed you because it's a godsend during this when we loan out Chromebooks. So yeah, we're going down the Chromebook route, and the Wizkids tracker app is amazing.
Awesome, yeah. AJ's talking about our fleet management tool. It's kind of like, I don't know, Find My iPhone for a Chromebook. So yeah, it's pretty neat. AJ, thanks for that. That's really kind. Okay, awesome. Gemma is our resident Google trainer. You had a couple of questions for AJ about Giuseppe particularly, because the school and AJ have invested in Giuseppe already, and we wanted to kind of pick into the reasons why, and we were going to do that initially through the teaching perspective. So Gemma, you had a couple of questions, so you'll feel happy to fire away.
Yes, absolutely. I'm really curious, and this is a question I get across the board when I speak to teachers and schools. How did the adoption process go as far as putting Google Giuseppe onto every computer and having all your staff ready to do it? How did that go as far as staff adoption? Because this is a very big focus at the moment.
So granted, we were in a weird position because we had Office 365, which obviously never got used because it's not as open and easy to use as G Suite. But basically, we kind of made it so, thankfully, we have a good head of computer science, which is also the IT coordinator for the school, which did a lot of CPD training. And obviously, you guys were kind enough to come in as well when we signed up with you guys. And then, yeah, we originally went through the email route, and then we're like, okay, they're getting used to signing into Google. We're going to just move all their files across, like during the summer holidays, and when they come back, they're all prepared. Yeah, I would say if I was going to recommend something, summer holidays, and if you have a good IT coordinator, which does a lot of training, or I do see at the moment, staff are still getting used to it, and I'm still doing video tutorials for them. So as long as you've got a good support structure, yeah, you'll be fine.
Okay, so, that's great. I mean, that's good to know. And obviously with anything new, especially when it's on a digital platform, it is going to be a big learning curve for anyone. we can assume that most of the students, I would say, in your school have adapted quite well to that, as that generation are. But for anyone over the age of 30, I would say it is a bit of an adjustment. So that's really good to hear. I do have to ask though, as far as security goes, I get asked a lot of things around safeguarding and aspects of GDPR. How do you find that the security features work, obviously for protecting the students, but also your teachers, their data, information, personal information as well?
Yeah, it's honestly, so I know there is the thing for G Suite, enterprise users, or sorry, Google Workplace enterprise users, the security sandbox. I haven't really touched it, but when it comes to like data GDPR wise, obviously the data regions, being an enterprise user, being able to choose where you want to have your data. Obviously, you do have the option to change where you can go in the free version, and you can select Russian Federation if you would want that. I personally would like to keep within Europe, and obviously for GDPR, you would want to keep that. And regarding GDPR wise, it's perfect. Again, when it comes to Google Meet and the future features that are coming out, because the Google team have been amazing, releasing premium features during a trial period within a pandemic for free, basically, as they mentioned. Again, I'm not bigging them up; it's the truth. And the fact that they did that shows that they're willing to help out schools. So with Google Meet, future features like stopping kids from turning on webcams and such for safeguarding reasons, because last thing you want is Timmy basically, as an example of a student, decide to do something stupid on webcam, and obviously you can't turn off their webcams at the moment, but if in case, touch wood, God forbid, we go into another lockdown, I'm sure those features will come in very handy.
Well, that's great to hear.
And actually, if I don't mind jumping, I had a question about some of the teaching stuff, because there's a few things. So I think one of the big things is that the teaching for teaching is the Meet feature, right, being able to record, and also I guess the attendance is probably quite a big one. Maybe not now, most students are back in school, but potentially. And there was also one which was the originality reports. Do you think that's something that the teachers are going to use with their new GSEFI license, or whatever you'd call it?
Oh yeah, no, definitely. Especially if, for instance, some schools which we're planning to go down this route for exam, because our examinations officer she's very open for moving stuff regarding like technology. So at the moment, I'm sure some schools might have Windows laptops which have Office on and obviously not connected to the network, so they can't search stuff during exams. But for instance, we're planning to go down the kiosk route in regards of like locking down apps on a Chromebook, using them in exams. And then with this plagiarism thing, because it's in the Google Doc and it's right there, we can instantly check, hey, has this kid for some reason somehow copied this directly off of a web page, even though obviously they don't have access to the internet and such. But the plagiarism thing is really good, especially during live lessons and lockdown, because obviously you're not there. You can't see if a kid's copying the stuff or not. So yeah, it's really good. Really good.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yes.
I just had a couple of quick ones on it. I know there's been quite a few questions coming in, and we want to use the Google guys and their expertise, because there's a couple about, just as a heads up, Lance and Simon, there's a couple of questions about the mobile device management bit, and I'm going to definitely hand that one across to you. But from a tech perspective, we've had quite a lot of interest in from some of the network guys that we work with. And AJ, you're obviously much more, well, it's not difficult to be more technical than me, but you have a good understanding of all the technical bits of running a network at a large secondary school. In terms of moving to GSEFI, the data regions is a big one, but I think it's also important to say that the regular G Suite is, as a data processor rather, Google are GDPR compliant. But there's, to be more GDPR compliant, having stuff in the EU, that was a big one for you. Were there any other kind of real technical reasons that were interesting to you, particularly for GSEFI or G Suite Enterprise for Education?
Oh, okay. We can be here all day if need be. So basically, premium features, but that really covers under the teaching side of things, and also the single sign-on. Honestly, because obviously you need to be enterprise for single sign-on. basically the Google credential provider for Windows, I think it's called, or something along those lines.
Yeah, GCPW for the uninitiated. And I only got my head around it the other day.
Yeah, no, that's it basically. And that's a real selling point, because obviously you want to make your users' experience as streamlined as possible. And the only way of doing that is through single sign-on, honestly. Granted, there might be some security things behind it, but you can obviously change that if you're worried about everyone signing in once and that's it. If they have those details, and they can access to everything on your network. But no, single sign-on is really good. You do need enterprise for it. And that is one of the selling points why we probably will most likely sign up for the 3 years. Obviously, price assurance, that also does help. Yeah.
So the single sign-on, that means, so what it means essentially is that when a student logs in to they have to have a Windows 10 or version of Windows 10, right? And rather than logging in with their AD password, they can click login with Google, and Google will authenticate them, and they'll be signed in not only to their network account, but also to their G Suite account, right? So for schools who historically have battled with, not battled, it's a great tool, but the things like the GSPS, the password sync, or maybe some of the Active Directory federated services, it can be a bit fiddly. So those were nice ones. Awesome. Okay, great. Well, I had I had some other quick questions for it, but I'm sort of conscious of time because I know there are some questions. But what I said now, as we've got the Google guys here, and maybe this is one for you as well, Gemma. But AJ, if you had a kind of Giuseppe or Google wish list, what would you ask the Google guys to make available to you?
Oh, best question of them all. That's great. So as a school, I'm sure others would agree. So hopefully I'm preaching to the choir here. So I'm just going to quickly go through them because I'm aware of time. Basically, parent portal for Google Classroom. That would be amazing. Like literally, especially if it's only for enterprise, that would be insane. So if parents can log into some type of portal, I know that I'm sure technically wise, it must be insane to try and engineer something of that infrastructure. But if there was like a parent side of the Google Classroom, that would be insane. Like it would appeal so much because parent summary reports are great. But for instance, if you're trying to like get like schools off of, sorry to say, Show My Homework or other platforms like that, sorry, Show My Homework fans, but that would sell it to them completely. And the money, obviously, from that, you can obviously use to get them signed up to enterprise. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. So that'd be insane. A proper app for digital signage, because not a lot of schools do digital signage within Google. Only the schools that do that are typically very like up there in the head, not gloating at all, but it's not particularly easy to do digital signage within Google, basically, even with the Sign app, Sign Designer, and also Google settings, because basically, it would be great if we could run lessons for kids being able to basically publish stuff on YouTube and all that good stuff, because obviously kids like myself, because I do YouTube and Twitch and all that jazz. Hope this doesn't get flagged.
I only found out what Twitch was when I spoke to you, AJ. I had
no idea
before.
I'm sorry if I said the word Twitch. I know with YouTube videos you cannot say the word Twitch because it will just get flagged.
I thought it was the same as TikTok, so you're ahead of me anyway.
So basically, we want to try and get kids to learn how to interact with such a large volume of people, like I deal with thousands of people on my streams or tens of thousands. It's hard to teach kids how to do it. So if there was like a specific YouTube policies within Google admin, that would be great. Yeah,
awesome. Well, I think that was really great. Gemma, I wonder if we've still got Simon and Lance around, because maybe we could take a couple of questions that have come in on the comments.
Okay. So.
All right, guys. I hope we didn't say anything that was that was wrong or against the grain. Does that sound all right?
Don't think so. I didn't hear you say TikTok or Twitch.
It's all, I don't know.
So thank you very much for sharing your wish list with us. We'll document some of that.
Yeah.
I hear your excitement in the parent portal.
Yeah, well, because the parental notifications in Classroom, once they're set up and working, are really great. But we're looking for, I guess, or you particularly were looking for something a little bit more. Great. Okay.
All right. Let's add our first
do you want to bring them up, Gemma?
Yes, and I just acknowledging that, Lance, I know that you've already had a good look at these ones already. So, but we've got a first one here. So
for the BigQuery data reporting, if I only get enterprise for the teaching staff, will I be able to analysis all data within the domain? Same for cloud search. Okay, so when you only license part of the domain, so if you go down the route of PDL licensing, you only license a certain subset of users within your domain to have the G Suite for Enterprise functionality. There is some features that are restricted when you do that, and that's simply because it requires all users to be licensed to enable that service. This is one of them. So there's limited functionality. Only the data of the licensed users will be surfaced in Gmail logs, and usage data will be exported to BigQuery. And so that's the official line. I've taken that line straight from our one-pager document. We have a one-pager document on our website. I've shared the link into the private chat into this little thing. So I don't know if you're able to share that with the wider group, my Wizkids hosts. Thank you. If you could share that out, there's a great one-pager. It's FDL versus PDL, and it just gives you an overview of all the features that you have within Giuseppe and how they're affected by the different licensing models that you should choose. FDL, everything is completely open and accessible. PDL, some features are completely open. There are a subset of features, though, that have restricted services, and that is one of them that you've mentioned there.
Okay, fantastic. All right,
I'll
go
try
on.
and share that in the stream now, sorry.
Oh, thank you, Max. Okay, so we've got one here. Is the background blur already available? I can't see the option. I do get this question quite a lot. So Google, want to help out with that one?
I can take that one as well. Firstly, make sure you are using an up-to-date Chrome browser. So I think it's x86 is the current version on Chrome browser. So make sure you got an up-to-date Chrome browser on your device. When you are in your Meet, on the lower right-hand corner, you'll see the little 3 dots. If you tap on those, at the moment, I believe it should just be blur background. Future state, it will say change my background. And then you go into that, and you'll see the option of background colors, and there'll be one that's a diffused icon. That diffused icon is your background blur. But do make sure you're in your Chrome browser, and that Chrome browser is updated.
Okay, thanks. I know I'm using it at the moment. I absolutely love it. And I know Max hasn't got it at the moment. So
Yeah.
it's great jealousy.
Nothing ever comes to me. I think nothing technology ever works for me.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we've got a lot of questions here for Lance.
There was one. Sorry, there was one actually about pricing, which I think maybe Simon. There was one about.
Yes. Here we go.
I wonder if we could look at that one about. There was a question about that, and I think you're the best man to clarify that stuff, Simon.
We do get this a lot, and it's a fair question when considering the information that you just received. The one thing to think about when you're looking at calculating out G Suite Enterprise for Education is the definition of staff. So it's not just teachers. This is where kind of a lot of customers will get caught up, actually. So thank you for raising this. So when we think about staff, we're thinking about effectively all the knowledge workers. So any individual part-time, full-time, teaching, non-teaching staff member. So whether that's a teacher or senior management team or an admin worker, or anyone who needs the use of technology effectively within the learning institution, they are given licenses, and that's how it's calculated. When you consider all of those staff, then the ratio is actually tends to work out a lot more. And if you were thinking about 30 students, that you only really need on a ratio of 1.3 licenses to generate 30 free student licenses. So it does work out. There are some instances where it goes out of it, and then you just have to maintain the ratio by purchasing a few additional licenses. Something you can talk to your partner about, though, as well.
Okay. And I do have one question here. It was asked right at the beginning. Another one. So this is a really specific one. So the MDM section.
Sure, I can take that one. So the MDM section that we spoke about, the Advanced Mobile Device Management piece, that would be designed to replace your existing mobile device management tools that you're using. So I do have, and Gemma, I don't know if you can pull up. I'm just quickly screen sharing in. So I don't know if you're able to pull it up. This is a support document that's on our support portal, so everyone's got access to this. I have dropped a link in the chat if anyone's able to share that to the audience here. But this just gives you an idea of the different services that we have. So there's 2 different levels of advanced mobile device management. There's basic mode and there's advanced mode. And it really, we kind of like look at it. It depends on if you own the device or not. It's kind of the way we think about how you would choose to deploy each one of these. If you don't own the device and it's the student's device or the teacher's device, maybe you go down the basic route. Or if you do own the device, maybe you go down the advanced route. But this gives you an idea of the different subset of services that you do have available to you. Now, the items that you see there with asterisks and markers on them, they are for the premium features only. So they are just Cephy only features. So that'd be, device audits and alerts, device management rules, bulk enrollment for company-owned Android devices, company-owned iOS devices, and distributed device certificates. They're only available through Cephy. These other items, such as the work profiles, app management, remote white block devices, etc., are all available through just the standard advanced MDM, which is through G Suite for Education. So I hope that helps and clears that up. And if you've been able to share that link, hopefully whoever asked that question, you'll be able to find more detail.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. So now we're at the end of our broadcast.
Yeah,
so
we're there. Amazing.
We're there.
Yeah. I was just really quick, just a big thank you to Simon and Lance. I think I said this before, but you must be some of the most in-demand Googlers, not just in the education bit, but across the whole of Google at the minute with all the stuff going on in education. And it's nice. I hope it must be nice to hear, people like AJ, being, really enjoying the tools that you guys are facilitating. So thank you for taking time to present with us today. We really appreciate it, and your expertise are, they're great. So thank you. And AJ, it's always great to speak to you, sir. Thank you for your time. Best luck with the Cephy adoption. We'll be interested to see how you get on with it. Once again, you find yourself at the forefront. And Gemma, thanks for doing all the kind of organising and admin of these online meetings. I know they're not easy. But thanks for listening. If you have any questions about anything Google related or Wizkids related, feel free to reach out to us. And I think that's it. Thanks for listening and stay safe.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks so much.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks,
everyone.
Thanks, everyone.